When you think of ancient Egypt, what comes to mind? Pyramids, right? Pharaohs? Sure. But today, we're going to talk about an invention that was honestly maybe even more important for building that entire civilization, their number system.
So let's just start with a huge question. And I mean, really think about this for a second. How in the world do you manage millions of people, build these colossal structures, and feed an entire nation without a way to count? The short answer? You just can't.
Okay, so first things first, let's really dig into the massive challenge that the growing Egyptian kingdom was staring down.
So you've got this amazing civilization popping up along the Nile. And because of that river, they're not just surviving, they're thriving. They have huge surpluses of grain, tons of goods from trade, and a population that's just exploding. And suddenly, simple counting, memory, using your fingers, a few scratches on a tablet, that just wasn't going to cut it anymore. Not even close.
I mean, can you imagine being an official back then? It must have been a total nightmare. You're trying to figure out how much grain is actually in the storehouse. How much tax does this farmer owe? How many thousands of workers do we need for the pharaoh's new temple? They desperately needed a reliable, written system to track, well, everything. It became absolutely essential.
To really get a feel for this, just picture a school trying to run without any numbers. No grades, no class schedules, no attendance, no budgets. It would just be complete and utter chaos. Now scale that chaos up to an entire kingdom with millions of people. You see, numbers weren't just a nice to have. They were the actual machinery that made civilization possible.
So, faced with this giant, kingdom-sized problem, what did they do? Well, this is where things get really, really clever. Let's look at their brilliant solution.
What they came up with was a decimal system. Now, hold on, it's not exactly like the one we use today, but it was a total game changer. They organized numbers based on powers of 10, which totally makes sense, right? Most of us have 10 fingers. And the key was, each one of those powers of 10 got its very own unique symbol.
And here's the really brilliant part. They didn't have to invent a new symbol for the number 3 or for 30 or 300. Nope. They just repeated the symbol for 1 3 times, or the symbol for 10 3 times, or 100 3 times. It's such a simple idea, but it made their system incredibly flexible and super easy to expand.
Okay, so this is where we get to see the real elegance of this system in action. Let's break down the symbols themselves because they're fascinating. And their symbols, oh man, they were genius because they were pulled right from the world around them. A single line for 1, easy. A heel bone for 10, a coil of rope for 100. But check out the bigger numbers. A lotus plant for 1,000, a flower they saw in huge numbers. A tadpole for 100,000, because they'd appear in these massive swarms in the Nile. And for 1,000,000, a god with his arms raised up, representing something almost infinite. They connected these abstract numbers to the real world. So let's say you wanted to write a number, like 243. How'd you do it? Super simple, actually. You just draw 2 of those coil of rope symbols. That's your 200. Then 4 heel bone symbols for 40. And finally, 3 little single strokes for 3. You just grouped them together. It was so easy to read, so visual. And this right here, this is probably the biggest difference from our system today. Theirs was additive. A coil of rope symbol always meant 100, no matter where you wrote it. For us, a digit's place is everything. The 5 in 500 is a whole different beast than the 5 in 50. For the Egyptians, the order didn't really matter for the value. It was just about making it look neat.
All right, so they've got this awesome, clever system. But so what? How did it actually help them build one of the most incredible and long-lasting civilizations in all of human history?
Well, this number system became the engine that drove pretty much everything in their society. It was absolutely essential for managing the massive grain harvests, for planning all that construction, for tracking trade, and for running the entire bureaucracy of tax collection.
I mean, just try to wrap your head around building one of the Great Pyramids. We're talking more than 2.5 million massive blocks of stone. There is just no way you can organize a project on that scale without a system for counting materials, workers, food rations, time, all of it.
And you see, knowing this stuff wasn't just about being good at math. It was about power, plain and simple. The scribes were these highly respected experts who could read, write, and do all the calculations.
They were the ones who formed the administrative class that kept the whole state running, managing the records that the pharaoh's power really depended on.
So let's bring all this together. What's the final takeaway here? What's the real legacy of this amazing intellectual tool?
Now look, let's be real. The system wasn't perfect, right? It had its limits. It was pretty clunky if you wanted to do complex multiplication or division, and it didn't have a concept for zero. But we shouldn't judge it by our standards today. For the problems Egypt actually had to solve, keeping massive records and running a country, it was incredibly effective.
And that's the most important thing to remember. Their system solved the single biggest problem they had. It could scale. It allowed them to think big, to record big, and to govern big. They weren't trapped by small numbers anymore. They had a tool that could grow with the incredible ambitions of their kingdom. And this is just such a powerful reminder, isn't it? Civilizations aren't just built with stones and mortar. They're built with abstract inventions, like a number system, that allow for complex organization. Behind every single great monument, there was a scribe with a record. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought about our own world. The Egyptian number system was this invisible framework that made their entire society possible. So it makes you wonder, what are the invisible systems, the codes, the protocols, the ideas that are holding our world together right now?